Beyond. I'm your host, Alan Tracy,
And I'm Rahana Power.
and today we have actor Sam Landman with us. Hello.
Hello, how are you guys?
Good.
Doing great. We are really excited to chat with you today. Um, and so we're just going to dive right in before we jump into the film universe of our lives. First, can you just tell us something fun or interesting about Sam?
Yeah, a couple of things. I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh,
Not a
cool.
lot of people know that, and I don't shy
Oh,
away from it. If they ask where I'm from, I do proudly say I'm from there. Um, and another interesting thing, in 2015, I challenged myself to write one one act play a week. So at the end of 2015, I essentially I had 52 one-act plays, and they were
Wow.
different genres. I challenged myself every week, every Monday, post them, and then so I'm trying to get those published, just self-publish them myself in little five different volumes,
huh.
or probably more than that, 12 or 13, however that divvies up in my
Sure.
math. But yeah, and they're all 15 to 30 pages
Go, go, go,
each.
go, go, go. Mhm.
So that's just you asked about an interesting thing.
15 to
That's
30 pages
really,
each?
Yeah,
yeah,
Wow.
that's
yeah.
that's incredible, Sam. Oh my gosh. Like I thought you were gonna be like, yeah, I didn't get quite 52, but I was able to do like 30, like which I still was gonna be like, oh my gosh, it's incredible. And then you're like, no, I did 52. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I did. I
Um,
mean, again, like
oh,
when I was even when I was doing it, there were playwrights and other writers who were going like, "Yeah, but are they any good?" I'm like, "Fair question,"
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm
that
sure.
like,
wasn't the challenge.
"That wasn't."
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
writers write, man, and I
Mm-hmm.
found that I had done a thing called Regret a Day for about 4 years before that, where I posted a new regret, mostly comical, stupid shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I was like, yeah, I need a bigger challenge and I need to write
Hmm.
more. And so, yeah, I found myself digging into old notebooks of half birthed ideas and some stuff that was like,
Hmm.
and some weeks I'd be like, it'd be Wednesday and I have to post on the following Monday. And I'd just be like passing by something. I'd be like, that's a story. And I would just go. But I really pushed myself to be like,
Wow.
1 week it's comedy, 1 week it's drama, and 1 week it's some
Yeah.
sci-fi thing. Anyway, so
I have
uh,
so many questions about
oh, I can
these.
answer them all. We
Oh,
don't want
do
to
it.
junk it
Yeah,
up
ask.
the
I have
podcast, but I
Oh
can
questions.
my gosh,
totally
no.
answer it.
Oh, okay. So, one is like looking back now, are any of those 52, even if it's just one, scripts that you're like, you know what, at some point I would actually like to expand on this and make something bigger or make a larger story, or even if it's not like a play, maybe make it into a short film or a feature or like anything that kind of still sits with you today.
Absolutely. One I adapted into a Twin Cities Horror Festival
Oh,
play
cool.
called Dream County. That was in 2018, I think, but it was about sort of a Mr. Rogers type kid show where the characters don't realize they're in a show.
Hmm.
And it's sort of existential horror. And that one I kind of adapted to the stage, but a good number of them, yeah, I've got a few that I'm like, I always want to. The problem with writing stuff is y'all probably know, and anybody listening or watching, is like if you write it, that's great. But that also means if nobody takes up the mantle, you're producing it.
Right.
That's the hardest part, even in stage. But a lot of the stuff that I have could easily be adapted to um, you know, short films because they are sort of short type of things, but they would take a bit of involvement. But there are a few
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, and I've sent them off to various like, playwriting competitions or whatever if people who want to produce new
Hmm.
work. And I have a new play
Yeah.
exchange page where like most of them sit. But
Hmm.
yeah, I've thought about a few of them. I've never pulled the trigger on a lot of them because I'm like, well, how do I adapt? It's going to take a lot of sort of
Hmm.
work. But yeah,
Yeah.
there are a few, specifically one that I've done. Others have done. I did a staged reading of one of them on a different one too. So one day, my hope this year was to do like an entire staged reading of all of them, like every week. But I'm
Ooh,
like,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
that's
a little too.
Or
yeah.
or like maybe a few in a night, like I don't know, what are
Yeah,
you like
because
two in
I
a night
honestly,
if
That'd
they're
be so
30?
cool.
yeah, and I honestly, I'm with the people who asked, but are they any good? Because I'm like, I wouldn't put all of them out there. I might publish them all, but to actually do a
Yeah.
stage reading of all 52, I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm not totally proud with of all of them because sometimes I was just trying to get to a deadline.
Hmm.
Uh,
Right.
Hmm.
but yeah, there are a few that I've been like, yeah, maybe I should, do
Well, and you
something
can
with.
always like go back and
That's
revise
so
if you
cool.
need to. I mean, that writing is
Yeah.
rewriting too, right?
And
So,
and
Yeah.
you know, and all writers are cannibals, so you're constantly like taking
mhm.
something that you did that
Yeah.
nobody
Hmm.
has seen, and if you want to work on some new thing, I'm writing a
Yeah.
couple of plays this year, and it's like, oh, I'm taking some of that, throwing it in here.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
how writing works. So
Hmm.
there's always material there. That's the great thing is just having it,
Hmm.
Yeah, as a
and a few
base.
in the
Yeah.
chamber. Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely. Are there any genres? I mean, 52 weeks, if you're trying to do different genres as much as possible, I'm gonna assume the pot of leftover genres is probably pretty small, but are there any that you didn't get to that you're like, I think it'd be kind of fun to like maybe try writing a blank someday?
Yeah. I wasn't as successful as I thought I would be with like, oh, let's pick a new genre because there's so many different genres. Um,
Hmm.
Most of them fall into sort of the comedy, but then there's a lot of drama. There's a few of those that I would love that I would have loved to do more of a sort of a rom-com type of thing, but in
Hmm.
the span of like 15 pages, I don't know if I would have gotten there, but also it's a matter of I was writing them specifically for the stage, so I'm like I had
Hmm.
to have some sort of
Yeah.
visual interest happening, some sort of let's go here, go here.
Yep.
Um, Again, I did a couple of sci-fi ones. I did some speculative fiction type things, some multiverse type of things before
Oh, cool.
multiverses were like massive.
The thing.
A huge thing where it got really played out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have loved to sort of pursue the horror
Mhm.
genre a little bit more. But a lot of the stuff that I did was all it was kind of a very, you know,
Yeah.
slim lane of like comedy, drama, dramedy,
Yeah.
I was also experimenting a lot with like, okay, cast sizes. Like, here's a
Ooh.
two-hander,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
here's 12 people, here's 5 people, here's
I was
um
gonna ask, like, was this a one act one play or like several? And then you just answered it. So yeah,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. I did a couple of one-person shows.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But mostly I was trying to get like a lot. I was trying to get a big, a few big cast shows. But mostly I was kind of going, all right, let's slim it down to what's possible. So generally they're,
There
eight
are.
or less.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
as soon as I started putting them on the new Play Exchange, it became really daunting because I'm like, oh, I gotta count the characters. I never had a cast of characters page. I just got to go
Yes.
through. So a lot of that is very
Yeah.
much, it's all if they're a new Play Exchange, you can see like how many characters and what's, mostly I say like these can be played by any race, gender, um, age,
Hmm.
because I think
Hmm.
that's a lot easier than just like, okay, it's got to be 20 or it's got to be 45. It's like that's
Hmm.
Right.
not how stuff works anymore. Just make it a very,
Yeah.
sort of a fluid
Hmm.
type of deal for just anybody to produce, really.
Speaking
Yeah.
of actors and numbers of actors, when did you start with your acting career? Was it in Birmingham or was it where else? I
Ye-
mean,
Hey, everyone. We've got 20 plus episodes up for you now on our Patreon with lots of fun chats, some really great guests.
yeah, and join for free and get extra episodes for as little as $5 a month. You can join in the link in the show notes. Check us out at patreon.com/film and beyond.
Yeah, I went to a non-denominational Christian school from like kindergarten to fifth grade. And I was in some Christian school plays, but the first one that I remember specifically being cast in versus being like, you're Shepherd number 15. Beside, or like there was a time I was going to play King Herod and I got sick and I couldn't do it. And I was
Oh
like,
no.
no, I could have
Oh
played
no.
King Herod. Anyway, I don't know how many people even know who King Herod is. And the point being, um, the one sort of, what do you call it, secular show they
Mhm.
did was Dennis the Menace.
Ooh.
And I had
Really?
bright blondish hair. And I remember us reading what I guess you would call sides, but back then you just little
Mhm.
snippets from the script. And after I read it, I was like, I really, in my head, I was like, I'm gonna get this role. And I think I got the role of Dennis the Menace because I was the only blonde kid in class. But I still remember parts of that. I still remember there's little flashes of that.
Hmm.
I don't remember what happened last week, but I remember a lot of stuff about like running
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
between the pews and Margaret, hey Margaret, and being this little kid. Um, but outside of that, like I went to middle school. We did some skits class to class that weren't part of a drama club. But then in high school, I hated acting. I hated theater in general.
Really?
Yeah, our instructor was
Mhm.
kind of a she was kind of on her way out
Hmm.
in terms of like I got a pension or a retirement. And I
Hmm.
think she just made it kind of miserable. Um,
Oh,
Oh,
that's so unfortunate.
I know, and I'm so jealous of people, especially kids who grow up now and have good, really great high school um,
Hmm.
right, right.
theater
Like
classes.
programs, yeah.
Yeah, and people
Yeah.
who are really enthusiastic about it. I'm like, I
Yeah.
wish I had been that excited about it back then. But then I hit UAB, University of Alabama at Birmingham, and I
Hmm.
kind of hit my stride where I auditioned for a play. And this almost sounds made up, but I swear to God, I've heard another other actors, like famous people, say this. They're like, "Well, I auditioned with my girlfriend and she didn't get in, but I did." And I'm like, that is exactly what happened with me. She auditioned for this restoration comedy called The Country Wife, and I went with her and read, and I got in, and she didn't. And it was after that, like I remember after the production, because I wasn't a theater major, I was an English major. And
Hmm.
after that, the this theater instructor, Ward Harbauer, who was one of my sort of mentors in theater, because I didn't realize how much I loved it. After it, he was like, I took a chance with you because everybody here had to audition, like they're theater majors.
Yeah.
So the people who were in it were in the theater department, and you weren't. I took a chance, and I'm glad I did. I hope you keep doing this.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
So I was like, yeah,
love that.
yeah, he's the sweetest guy in the world. So at that point, I just kept auditioning for theater, kept getting roles,
Hmm.
did some community theater, did Birmingham Children's Theater, the first little paid gig I ever got. Um, but yeah, beyond that, that's kind of where I started. And then since then, I've done, touring theater productions, which is kind of how I got here.
Yeah.
Through like Boston, I did outdoor
Hmm.
drama in Ohio. I did touring stuff and out of Richmond and Summerstock in Connecticut, all that kind of actor crap. Um, so
What's
yeah,
your favorite show, uh, play or musical, if you like musicals, that you have either done and then separately to just watch?
wow, that's a great question.
I
Um,
love theater people, so I'm very excited
yeah,
about this
they're
conversation.
they're they're a weird breed.
I love it.
Well, I
Right.
don't know. There are
We are.
two things I really enjoyed doing.
Mhm.
One was for the Minnesota Fringe, uh,
Oh yeah,
and I played Colonel Sanders in a play called Finger Licking Good,
that's
which
amazing.
which was sort of a horror comedy where he all the chickens he murdered come back to kill him.
That's a
Um,
lot of chickens.
Brilliant.
it's a lot of chickens, and we only had about 5 or 6 people, but they they made up for it in spirit.
Nice.
Brilliant.
I really love doing that. I really also played, and this was for a TV series, I think called Killer. What was it called? Killer Next Door
Oh,
Mhm.
for
yeah.
and
Is
I
that
played
like a
John. It was all serial killers.
oh,
Mhm.
Um,
okay.
and I played John Wayne Gacy in that.
Oh wow.
So that wasn't theater, but it was like a
Hmm.
series where I was able to like do reenactments as John Wayne Gacy. So John Wayne Gacy and Colonel Sanders, I think that's really the two.
I
Uh,
mean, yeah,
you know,
I can see it. I really can.
yeah.
Um, what
I
what
like
was
I
it like? I was trying to like make a I was gonna make a joke about how like similar they are, and then my brain was like, no, you're not. And then I just yeah, it didn't happen. What was it like playing John Wayne Gacy, like somebody like that?
Mm,
That's, I mean,
mhm.
real in that like that horrible of a person, but he's a human, you know?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and because they're reenactments, you kind of do certain roles. I mean, you don't have there's not a lot. There's a lot of in the look and a lot of action and some lines, but not a ton.
Okay. Hmm.
Um, and it was one of those things where this is a production company in town that was doing 13 episodes in literally 13 weeks.
Oh wow.
So they,
Eesh.
sorry, I'm going way behind the scenes here, but
No, that's
Yeah,
good. That's what we
this is
want. Yeah.
fascinating.
one of the house, an Airbnb that they rented, Like we would do me coming, John Wayne Gacy coming into the kitchen, where he sees his this lover or whatever who just fixed him this breakfast that's still steaming, and he's got blood all over him because he just murdered him. And he walks into the kitchen, washes his hands and the knife, and I remember someone yelling cut, and me kind of turning around, and what you could see from the kitchen is a little like dining room set or a living room set rather, that was used for the Son of Sam episode that
Mm.
they were shooting the following week. And I
Wow.
think I was episode 12 of 13. And
Hmm.
our director is just ridiculously awesome, but he was like, he just had to do like meditation in his car during lunch because he was so burned out.
You're right.
His pacing was crazy. In terms of the
Yeah.
character, I mean, I watched a lot of stuff. I've always been kind of fascinated by John Wayne Gacy, but I watched a lot
Hmm.
because I had to do this. Um, I don't know how much of they used, but I had to do this thing where I'm mouthing words of him talking in prison.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
A lot of those kind of things happen, and I had to get his sort of inflections down. He had kind of a higher speech pattern. I don't remember
Hmm.
watching it, and I feel like they lowered my voice because it's like he sounds weird. I'm like, no, he really sounded, he had this kind of
Yeah.
higher voice, but
Yeah.
maybe it sounded too comic. But I had to strangle a guy in this basement, and just doing a lot of that. There wasn't anything getting into it because they also had one of the first shots was it was at this farm out in the burbs, and they had constructed out this sort of dirt mound that had a top and a bottom, and I could
Mhm.
crawl through a nice giant
Go,
crawl
go,
space,
go, go, go,
crawl
go, go.
through, pop up, pop down, and they'd get different angles. But it was all about, burying things and finding old rings and things. So once you're in
Huh.
that and you're covered in blood, like there's no acting. You kind of,
Yeah.
especially if you have to like, sort of murder someone in cold blood over and over and over. There's
Yeah.
very little acting to be done because it's the physical nature of it. But
Mhm.
I did a little bit of research and I'd known a lot about John Wayne Gacy. And coincidentally, you were trying to find a 6 degrees between. He
Yeah.
was manager of a KFC.
There
Um,
we go.
if not an owner, I think. So the KF, Colonel
Ooh,
Sanders, John Wayne Gacy, pretty
I feel like
close.
there's a conspiracy
wow.
theory here, and we're really close.
We're
Really
very
close.
close to touching it and actually
Yes.
peeling it back, but I
Yes,
don't know.
round
Somebody's
up
gonna
all the
stop me.
KFC owners. I'm
I
just
Where were
think this
you?
is
Yeah.
this is the next one act play.
Oh,
John Wayne
totally.
Gacy and Colonel
Oh my
Sanders.
God.
Just having a
Yes.
nice conversation like inside the actor studio. Just,
Oh
Yeah.
my
you
gosh,
know,
that would
Oh
be
my God. Yeah.
hilarious. Okay.
yeah,
Um, all right. So you did that, which is really cool that you got to do something like that. Like that's a very unique experience, I think.
yeah.
Uh, but moving, taking a couple steps back, can you tell us about your first film role? Like, how did that happen? I mean, if you were so prevalent and heavily in the theater for so long, what led you to one, want to do film, but then two, how did it even happen?
Well, in Birmingham, Birmingham has a now Birmingham kind of has a pretty decent stand-up community and decent improv.
Hmm.
Still about the same theater community, but very rarely would a film come through to actually audition for.
Mm.
Yeah.
So people were doing, I had friends who were working in production in one of the few production houses down there, and one of which I was in a band with at the time, and he had a friend who was a filmmaker, and he was like, I want to make a short. And my friend Dave was like, who I was in the band with, was like, hey man, if you got to put Sam in there, he's an actor and what have you. And Dan hated theater, and I think I totally get it. He had a real problem with theater, and I think when we got on the set and we were trying to do stuff, he was talking down to me about like, this is film, right? I hate theater because people are just so
Oh.
big and blah blah. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, I use that excuse for years. I'm like, anybody, if you can be big, you can be small. Like you
Mhm.
can pull somebody down, and generally, if theater people are going to film, they know what's up.
Yeah.
Um, so I did a film. I don't remember the name of it, or if it ever got edited. It was shot on
Mhm.
film, and a cheap stock, I'm sure, but I did one last thing before I left, not with him, but you guys remember there was an MTV VJ named Alan Hunter. He was one of the first few. Like there's Martha Quinn, Mark
Hmm.
Goodman, JJ Jackson, all these people. Not a lot of people remember Alan Hunter. He was also in that same little group. He's from Birmingham and he had money to blow, so he made this film about a guy who does sounds for pornos. Now there wasn't any nudity, there was no any of that
Yeah.
kind of stuff in this,
Yeah,
but it was
yeah.
called Porno Capella, and that's the last thing I remember doing in town. And
Yeah.
I would consider that sort of my first thing because I was actually
Yeah.
You're a voice actor?
no, I was on screen, but
Okay. Oh,
also it
wait a
was a
minute.
story of a guy who does he does ADR for porn,
Okay,
basically.
Yeah.
okay.
I don't remember I barely remember any of it. It's kind of a really asinine idea and script, but I don't know if I ever saw it
That's
either.
funny.
So I don't know if
Yeah.
so Porno Capella. Let's just say Porno
That's so
Capella.
funny. Oh my God.
It also kept me from being cast in Minnesota because they're like, this guy do porn? Why is he
Right.
like it's
You
not
have to have like
porn?
an asterisk on your resume. Like, I promise it's not
I did
porn.
not do porn. In fact, I quickly took it off my resume because I was like, that's just distracting. Now it
Yeah.
just sounds disgusting, and this guy's a creep. So
What'd you do down in
I
Birmingham?
understand.
What's this?
sorry, what? Can we ask? We're not going to cast you, but
It
what is
rem
this?
it reminds me of a
Curious.
joke that one of my favorite comedians, Ian Fidance, has. He looks like a guy who listens to porn on vinyl. Is the joke? It's just like one of those self-deprecating jokes, but it was just like,
Right?
oh my God.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
great.
I
Yeah.
understand. I haven't been in anything that's been quite as a blunt as Porn a Cappella, but I
Right.
did get to I was in a film that they titled Bondage,
Mm.
which
Yes.
was very
Oh.
I would love to have a conversation and find out like what led to that because it has not like it's literally about domestic abuse and
Oh,
it's there's like a fight scene. I get to kick some butt. It's awesome.
yeah.
But the comments on YouTube on it are like, wait, but where's wait, what? Like this isn't why
It
is
came
this
for
coming up?
bondage.
It's
It
Right.
only
so
says
funny.
bondage. It doesn't say
That's
short
all it
film.
is.
It doesn't say
No,
anything else. Just
Yeah.
says bondage.
hilarious. So
It's yeah,
And then press play.
it's
What I
flagrant
guess
false advertising.
I
Yeah.
yeah,
think that that
meant
was
to
during the
confuse people.
time.
Yeah.
That was during the time when YouTube was like, oh yeah, you want to get the clicks, you want to get, more traffic
Right.
through or
Yeah.
whatever. And the video does have traffic.
Oh yeah, they're getting
But
lots of
Yeah.
hits, lots
yeah,
of
yeah.
views.
But
But
now that
yeah,
there are
so
algorithms, it's not just keywords anymore. It's like,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
oh,
uh
no, maybe this isn't for you.
yeah.
But maybe.
But I
Might
feel
be.
like porn a cappella is so much funnier. Oh my
It's
Does
gosh.
I don't know. I remember being very excited that they showed like I got cast, and then I
Yeah.
was like,
yeah.
oh, I this is not really what I.
Is that
I
on the
mean,
Yeah.
resume now?
no, it's
No?
not.
Oh.
I'm gonna have to scrape that off. I didn't think about it until I came up here and people commented on it,
Right.
and I was like, oh, that's probably not a good idea. Just let's take
Well,
that
if you
off.
want to pursue humor, I think it's fine, but
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think it needs an asterisk to be like,
Yeah.
by the way, this isn't porn. It's about blah 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 blah,
Yeah.
and like 2 point font or
Yeah.
something.
Like fully clothed comedy. Like
Yes.
just something.
right.
No, yeah, no sex involved. I mean, not even simulated. It was literally
Yeah.
just a guy who's making the sounds, and that's
Right.
part of his thing. But it wasn't even that interesting from what I remember.
Mhm.
And I
Hmm.
don't remember much, but that's the most I remember about Porn a Cappella.
Yeah.
Was it a comedy though, at
Oh yeah, they
least?
were doing it
Okay.
for
Yeah.
comedy. I
Okay.
don't know if it was funny. It's just
Ah,
like
Right.
I
gotcha,
never saw
gotcha.
it.
Yeah. Like tried to be funny, maybe didn't hit.
Yeah, it's a really
Yeah.
great sort of maybe sketch that
Yeah,
could
yeah.
Yeah.
last, a sketch that maybe is under 2 minutes.
Right.
I
Mhm.
want to say this is probably a short, so it's probably
Sure.
it's shot quite a bit. So I'm pretty sure it was at least a 15, and I don't know if
Yeah.
that really. Who knows? I mean, I don't want to Google it, so that's the thing.
Right. That's understandable.
Yeah,
Well, off to
Um,
DuckDuckGo we go.
yeah.
yeah.
So other than ADR for porn, do you have other filmmaking roles that most intrigue you? Uh, that
Yeah.
other
I,
than like it could be anything, camera, directing, producer, or whatever.
yeah, I've always been interested in I mean, any kind of cinematographer role is always really cool. I know people who are DPs and they're kind of fascinating. Just it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
And everything and whenever I'm on a film, it feels like those men or women are very like, oh my God, there's a lot. If they're not directing it themselves, they're having to go, okay, no, this is going to cross the thing and we
Yep,
can't.
yep,
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff that I'm like, it takes a very special sort of brain for that, and the people I know are hella smart.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd be up for something like that, but I do really appreciate, and this is true for theater too, but I appreciate, although I do have some directors who are great, I appreciate directors who are also actors.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I directing is also intriguing to me, because it's more about, I think there are, at least in my experience, there are a lot of films that I've done where um, there's not a lot of concern for like what they shoot because they trust that 90% of directing is casting, and that's I think it's still true. And
Hmm.
I think they're more concerned. A lot of the people that I've worked with are more concerned about the shot and what it looks
hmm
like and how it
hmm
cuts together, which is all important. But
right.
Hmm.
sometimes there's a lot of people, a lot of directors who don't know how to talk to actors, and actors know how to talk to actors. So I feel like
Hmm.
Hmm.
there are a lot of actors that I've worked with in the theater realm and also a couple of
Yeah,
little film things who directors who are actors, and I feel like there's more, you get more out of that because they're not quite seeing what they're seeing. I
Hmm.
appreciate both sides because I don't want to
Hmm.
do
right.
too many takes, but I also love the idea of like, yeah, it's you need there needs to be more urgency to this. This is great. I love that take, but it needs to be more urgent, not
Hmm.
just do the lines faster. There
Mm.
needs to be a sense of urgency because this last
Yeah.
scene, and I appreciate any director mainly because they're like who wrote it specifically, who can be like, okay, so no, remember the scene we shot 3 days ago? This is the one right after that. Just keeping the actor like, oh, this is where I'm at. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Right.
Because sometimes recently, a couple of films I've done where I had larger, roles in them, I would have to ask, so is this before or after? You know what I mean? You have
hmm
to
Yeah.
kind of
hmm
get back in that headspace of where was I
Right.
Yeah.
before?
Really level set. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, director of photography for sure. I'm really interested and intrigued, but directing is really, especially an actor who directs, I think is more in.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. You make a fine point there, especially with like locally any level too, but in
Yep.
general, I think just look at like who was it Josh Trank who did like the fa the Fantastic Four that failed basically. Um
Oh yeah, which one? The
I f-
With like
it
Michael B. Jordan and
yeah, yeah.
that one.
Miles
Yeah,
Teller and stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Jessica Alba, I think. Wait, was she? No, no,
Nope, she
no.
was in the
No.
other one.
It was
Uh, the
one of the
actress
Maras, one of the
from,
Maras.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Kate Mara.
Yes.
But yeah, he had made Chronicle, which was great, and
Loved
then
Chronicle. Yeah,
yeah, and then big movie set. How do you deal with actors at that level and things like that? It's like it, it's a different film, right? It's a different
yeah.
environment to put a director in who's new, and like that's an example of like how it, eh, you know.
Also, actors are, I haven't worked on, anything that high level, obviously. Um, but even on the level that I've worked at, even locally, and
hmm
when I
hmm
spent some time on the East Coast doing some film and TV, um, you find, I'm a pretty easygoing actor. Like, I just need to know what's your fucking framing.
Hmm.
Uh, because there are
Yeah.
directors who don't tell you what they're shooting and just start, okay, guys, let's go, let's go. It's like, you
Hmm.
had 45 minutes to set up the shot. We have 2 seconds to know what the hell we're doing here. But they're real simple things where,
Yeah,
like, I'm very easy peasy,
yeah,
and I can be like, all right, do I have marks or are you just following? What's the shot?
Yeah.
that's the most I want. That's the biggest hard on I'm going to be on set, right?
Hmm.
But I've worked with a lot of people who they get very, very, um, anxious if they don't know what we're shooting, what page to what page, how much we're shooting,
Right.
and that they have every right to be that way. But I think that also labels actors as a little troublesome, especially if you're in a specific location and
Hmm.
the setup is not ideal,
Right.
like it's below freezing or it's too hot
Mm,
or you're in a weird place
Limited
that's
yeah.
time
dangerous.
to shoot something. Yep.
Yeah, and they feel like their urgency, and I totally appreciate we got to do these this many setups in a day. But I know a lot of actors, and I've worked with a few where they seem to be a little prickly, and it's because they don't know basic things. People aren't telling them
Yeah.
basic things, or we don't have time for rehearsals, or which is fine too. But you're going to get what you get if the actors haven't had a chance to
Right.
kind of after camera blocking, just go over lines. Camera blocking is
Yeah.
fine, but like a lot of the stuff is we do a lot of internal stuff. So there's a lot of things where we're giving you something that's not coming from a specific camera move. It's coming from an emotion or I'm reacting to that person. So I feel like a lot of times that that labels actors as difficult or
Hmm.
whatever. And I can't even imagine like when I hear people give like actors on that massive echelon, in Hollywood, and I hear even people who I know who work out in LA and do those kind of things, and I hear all these shitty tales about these people. I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, well, some of it might be fame and pressure, but some of it might be that people aren't telling them shit,
Yeah.
and I'm sure on that level that's not the case because they have a lot of buffers. But yeah, a lot of times I feel like that needs to be communicated, and I've been on many sets where that's not, and you're just expected to
Hmm.
know, oh, we're doing scene 53.
Yeah,
Oh, good, because nobody told me. That'd be
just
good to know.
poor communication skills or people skills sometimes that can have an
Hmm.
effect
Yeah,
when you're so upset. Like you get, yes, I'm the same way as the director. I know I want a shot composed a certain way,
yeah,
but
Hmm.
you have to also let them know, okay, this is a medium shot of this, or this is close on your face or something. Or it's like just to give, some frame of reference so they know, you know,
yeah. And I'm not saying that
where to
that's
act within
across the
too.
board and that people are doing it intentionally. I think there's just a time, as anybody, you know, um, listening to this podcast can attest if they work in the industry. They're like, oh no, we're trying to be as productive
Hmm.
as possible because
Right.
Hmm.
we don't have time to, we have time to set up. We don't
Yeah.
have time to like sit in this shot and, we might have a master, two reverses, and we got to move on. And that kind of stuff I realize is incredibly pressure sensitive. But I think actors get a little shortchanged in that respect. Because,
Got to get
you
on
know,
a David Fincher set.
Hmm.
You do like 30 takes for one thing.
yeah, that Social Network, the first shot in Social
Yeah.
Network was like 2 weeks. They did that as sort of a play, basically. And I'm like,
Wow.
dude,
Mm.
that was, or a week. Maybe it
Wow.
wasn't two, but that's a great scene because he just took they couldn't do anything but the lines. It's coming out the way it
Yeah.
needs to come out. You're not thinking
Hmm.
about camera angles and what do I look like and hair and makeup and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, geez. Yeah, or what is it? Like West Wing, you know,
Hmm.
Mm.
Aaron Sorkin. It's like supposedly he would be doing those walk and talks and it's many rooms and many whatever if this camera picks up whatever and it's like no, back to one. That was a minute and 42 seconds. We got to be down to a minute and 40. And I'm like, dude,
TV too. Yeah.
yeah, it's TV.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I love that kind of stuff, don't get me wrong, but I'm also
Yeah.
like, yeah, they had a lot of nice, well, hopefully had a lot of rehearsal for that,
Hmm.
but yeah,
Yeah.
boo-hoo
Um,
actor problems, whatever. But
so I'm curious, like from the actor standpoint, I mean, I feel like an actor's process can be so specific, and there's so many different processes that people kind of uh really soak up, and sometimes they sort of make their own process based on a lot of other things. So could you kind of speak to what your process is? Like when you get a role, like how do you prepare and all of that?
yeah, I am that old school. I gotta be like so off book and so not thinking about lines that if they're spraying me with like hoses or people are throwing tennis balls near my head. I can still do those lines cold. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
A good example is Good Sport, the feature that we're continuing to like hit the festival circuit with that we shot.
Hmm.
That was something where I needed the script at least a month in advance, which isn't that's not a crazy request. But I'm like, I
Right.
want to make sure it's locked and I'm doing the right, I'm getting everything. I
Yeah.
got all the lines and all the scenes ready because I'm in a majority of that film. And my process is just as if I was doing it for theater. Like I might have the tiny sides on me for each scene that we're doing that day, but
Hmm.
I need to be predominantly, if not completely, off book for the entire show
Right.
before day one.
Yeah.
Regardless of what we're shooting, regardless of how it's scheduled. That
Yeah.
doesn't, I mean, that seems like a flimsy process, but I treat it like any type of acting work. I have to be able to have had it for a while. If I'm shaky at all on it and I'm on set, it
Hmm.
really throws me.
Yeah.
Um, but the process, I mean, I think that's also something that uh, I don't know who's teaching acting for film these days. I know a few people who are
Yeah.
teaching acting for film, but I think the main thing is just like it's about for me also this is another little process. It's like um um act what's um act what's not on the page.
Hmm.
Act against what the scene is telling you to act. Because you don't just act an emotion.
Yeah.
And I feel that's part of the process too, is finding those
Mm.
directing yourself
Mm.
well before you get on set so the director can go, "Oh, that's a good choice. How about let's tweak it this way?" Because
Hmm.
if you just come on a set and you're off book, that's great. But if you don't have any kind of emotion behind it and haven't thought through where you're at in that sort of roller coaster, even if you're a day
Hmm.
player, that little scene that you're in, whether it's 2 lines or 15 lines, has to have some intention behind it, the same
Yeah.
way anything should have it. But I believe in, playing what's not on the page or playing against what the person's saying.
Mhm.
Hmm.
If this person's very confident and it sounds like it's written very confidently, there has to be some fear behind your eyes, or there has to be some reason why nobody's 100% anything. So I think
Hmm.
any role you take has to be seriously considered to be um, sort of multi-leveled in terms of what's in this little monologue he has. Like, what is he saying? Why is he saying it? And you don't have to go into like,
Hmm.
I got to write a character biography or anything, which some people do. Um, but that's the main process. And if anything, I guess if you truncate it, it's like be prepared. And all I want to do is come on the set and be able to deliver lines and with confidence,
Hmm.
or if the character needs it, lack of confidence, and then suddenly find that the director's like, that's great. Let's build on that. That's fantastic. Let's take this part away and move. That's kind of my process.
Mm.
But that seems like it should be everybody's process, really. It's such a basic,
Right.
you know,
But
thing.
also be ready to let go of some of those things because it's like if
Yep.
it's like sometimes it could be completely different too, and you're like,
Right.
oh, okay, so not like that, but more like this or something like,
Right, and sometimes the script changes. They're like, "Oh, we took out these 4 lines. Just do this
uh,
this part." So a lot of the process, being that prepared and being that off book and being
Yeah.
ready to say the lines in the middle of a tornado or whatever
Hmm.
they throw at you is important, because if they take out several lines, you can just in your head just jump from
Yeah.
here to down here. So a lot of that is, and that's just basic, theater 101, theater 102 type stuff. But for
Yeah.
film, it's so important because you just have to be Johnny on the spot,
Hmm.
you
right.
know?
Yeah. And can't be out of it. Like
No, not at all.
you're still, yeah.
And I know people who, get very like they can't talk to anybody in between takes, or they can't, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
their
Hmm.
process. I'm just like, I'm in it,
Yeah.
and if we're doing enough takes, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have it down, hopefully the first take, and then if we do a few more, it just gets better and better.
One for
Yeah.
safety. Let's
One for
go.
safety. Yeah. Let's just roll the rehearsal. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
my thing.
right. I know. I'm
Roll and
I'm always
rehearsal.
sometimes like quietly like roll sound. It's like it's like
They don't know,
yeah,
but go
exactly. We're
anyway.
just doing a
Yeah.
rehearsal.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. that I wish I could do that because sometimes they nail it on the rehearsal, right? Or
They
people
do.
do it. They
Mhm.
just they feel more. I know that's I've kind of t subscribed to the Clint Eastwood not sing action and cut to pull people out of, the whole put it kind of does put you on the spot when you hear action, right? It's like,
Yeah, there's a
Mhm.
lot of that kind of anticipatory actor thing, and I think there's also with some actors, and as we get older, this is probably the case, the law of diminishing returns. You do it too many times, it's like, I didn't you have it in take three? This is take 14, and I don't know if you're getting everything. And if you're not, we'll keep going. I heard that about Gene Hackman after he died, about Wes Anderson was like, yeah, he was ready for that first take. And if you did more than three, you weren't getting anything. You were the first take was usually the best thing you'd ever seen. And
mhm.
then
Wow.
when you wanted a little something different, you need to go with what Gene did because the man's been
Yeah.
doing it for a while. I love that
Mhm.
idea, but I know it's not always the case. But yeah,
Right.
roll that
Right.
rehearsal, man. Roll in rehearsal.
Yeah, that's like going back to Fincher, like the whole idea of having so many different versions is like, well, you get the actors get to play with that role a bit differently
Yeah,
too, and it's
yeah.
just like what you find in the process is the result. It's like that I'm like, how did you do so many takes for this? It's like I'm thinking about it like, how
Mhm.
would you do it differently so many times? Like I don't know. That's just I understand why he obsessively does it. He doesn't want to lose any
Mhm.
options while you're on set. So
Right. And if
it
he has
just
Well,
something in his
that's
head, I don't know. I think
mhm.
part of
yeah.
that is also you should be able to get that out of the actor. Like if you tell him,
Yeah.
if you see a take and go, no, it needs to be less intense.
Mhm.
And then,
And try
you're
different volume levels of that intensity.
right.
It's just like where is the right tone for this scene or something or whatever it is.
Yeah, you're shaving stuff down to the bare essence.
Mhm.
You're finding
Yeah.
that what do I really want? And considering like especially if you're shooting your own script, like you know what you want.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I just did a show recently, and it was called Dead Media. And this is a dear friend of mine who's an actor and a director. And this guy wrote and directed it, and he knew what he wanted. And we would do many, 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 many takes. And
Mhm.
every time he was shaving things down. You could just tell. He was like, "That's
Mhm.
good. I think I need more on the end. I need to be
Mhm.
bumping up at the end. It can be fine, and then plateau, and then boom, it goes up."
Yep.
Dude, I love that kind of stuff because again, he's an actor and he knows like just hit this word. And some
Yeah.
directors are
Yeah.
like that. They need to be that specific because the actors need to know what they want because the actor's only there
Mhm.
to do what's in service of the script and service of the director. And
Mhm.
I don't know, there's a lot of learning to working with those different types of directors who are just like, no, let's just shave it down to that bare
Mhm.
essence of what I need. But again, sometimes they don't know what they want until they see it. And
Yeah.
that's cool too, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it could be just the slightest difference from what you've been delivering, and they're just like, oh, that's perfect. Like in Les Mis, Anne Hathaway,
Mm.
the big song that she like a number of hers, um, I don't even remember how many times they did it. It was an absurd amount, like 70 something times or 100, like it was insane. And she's bawling and just like throughout it and every single
Wow.
time. And I'm like, and it was just one just had a slight like
Hmm.
that's it. And I
Right.
mean, it's the perfect scene, but oh, man, sometimes like I feel like doing it that many times, you're either
Mm.
going to have an actor who's going to just get so much more in tune with their character
Hmm.
because they're doing it that much that they are
Right.
entirely out of their head and they are their character, or you're going to have an actor who
Mm.
starts out of their head
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they're going to get that way and be like, okay, what do you want from me? And so it's going to
Yeah.
be one or the other. But it's definitely fascinating.
Well,
That's
and
for sure.
from an actor's perspective, like I had Good Sports, a good example. We had this monologue we shot towards the end of the show,
Hmm.
and it's this two-page monologue where he's just kind of breaking down, and the idea being like, I had been working that monologue, and I felt like he really needed to sort of cry a little bit towards the end.
Mhm.
And I wasn't quite getting it, but I was mainly getting. But once we were doing it, it was like, man, now. now I know.
Yeah.
We did it 3 times. Mainly the weather was kind of the factor why we didn't do more
Oh.
times. But they got enough coverage, and I think it's fine in the end product. But ultimately, like that sense memory is in you. Like if you've done
Hmm.
it enough times, you can't help but cry during this little part.
Yeah.
Eventually, your body's going to reject that. I'm sure Anne Hathaway's probably did at some
Mhm.
point. She's like, "No, you can't cry anymore.
I'm
Stop."
dry.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
completely dry.
no
There's
more
so much,
tears.
but there is an emotional resonance with that. But
Yeah.
more importantly, is that the sense memory. You
Hmm.
remember you start it with like,
Mhm.
oh, my first cat who passed away, and then as you do it enough times, eventually that crying happens just because you used to think about that during this line, and then suddenly you're doing that line, and it's just happening naturally.
The
Hmm.
Meryl
But yeah,
Streep thing with the, what was it, the cologne or something that she had from,
oh yeah, where you
Oh.
can get it from anything. It can be like,
yeah.
oh, it's
Hmm.
some piece of cloth that my mom used to carry
Yeah.
around or whatever. But generally, yeah, it can be a smell, it can be anything, and I love that idea of like eventually your body's just doing that,
Hmm.
and you cannot help it. Although there's a cutoff point because then it's like
Yeah.
I need therapy for the next six
Yeah.
months because of this
Because
film.
then, yeah, then you can be stuck in a really
I
tough place
Yeah,
afterwards where you're
we
like, I need to
I
meditate
need
or
time
something.
off.
Like,
we
Yeah.
just
I need
talked
a
to the other
nap or
Sam about that. The process, like, yeah, getting into that
hmm.
headspace too much,
Mm,
and then where you're like, she was like actually dreaming of as the character and everything. It was just kind of
Yeah.
like, well, that's why when I suggested like something from like Inception, where you have a totem like thing where you can just
mm,
put the as
Hmm.
a sense memory type of as an act,
yeah.
like could be like a paper clip or something, and you just like can put it away after you're done. Like that's where that lives now, or something like that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and that's the hope is that you can kind of you're done with
yeah,
that.
disconnect
Yeah.
with in a way to disconnect the those conjurings, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
I love talking process, but we have to move on for a few other
Yes,
questions.
of course.
Uh, of okay. If you could tell your younger self something, what would it be and why?
Uh, don't wait for someone to discover you. Uh, I spent a lot of my time in Birmingham kind of, wanting to collaborate with people and wanting people to love me. I'm also an only child. That has a lot to do with that too.
Hmm.
But I feel like you need to find those acting opportunities because they're not going to find you.
Hmm.
Uh, I might have moved away sooner than I did from Birmingham. If I'd just been like, no, man, just go. Just find the people you want to be with. I had a
Hmm.
big supportive creative community down there at the time, but like I think I wanted a higher creative ceiling, which
Hmm.
wasn't there at the time. But I would tell myself, don't stick around here too much longer. Like do what you need to do and find the people you want to find and learn the things you need to learn, but don't wait for somebody to come along and go, "Hey, kid,"
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know. And I don't think I was that.
Dennis the
Uh,
Menace, get in the car. Let's
yeah,
go.
I saw you at that production at Grace Christian School. You should. No, I don't think a child should get in a car,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I literally, as I think in my back of my head, I was like, no, this is good enough. And I think it's don't wait for someone to tap you on the shoulder and go, you've got the goods, you should go to blah. And also
Yeah.
just, be confident enough to say, it's time for me to find a new place. Um,
Hmm.
which is kind of scary, moving away from your hometown, but
Yeah.
it's,
Change is
sometimes
scary,
it needs to
yeah,
do.
for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh, that's just great advice in general for
I think
all
so.
of our aspiring actor,
Yeah,
even seasoned actors
Hmm.
listening. So,
yeah.
um I want to talk a little bit about your roles that you've done in the past. Can you tell us about maybe one or two of your favorite roles that you've gotten uh to play?
Yeah, I mean, because it's one of the more recent, like my absolute favorite would be Coach Pat in this film called Good Sport.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, it was one of maybe the first time I've ever been cast as a lead, at least in a feature. Um,
Hmm.
and I was kind of finding my way, what we talked about earlier about I
Hmm.
was kind of invented my own way of being off book every day.
Yeah.
Um, the character felt very alone at times, and I felt like I was pretty much he was a character everybody talked about, nobody talked to in this film.
Mm.
Wow.
And I think that really helped a little bit. There were a lot of really great LA and East Coast and West Coast and Atlanta actors who came in for this thing, and it was really cool to be sort of toe to toe with these people who were like,
Hmm.
oh, that's the guy who's Ted Lasso's ex-wife, her boyfriend in Ted Lasso. Okay, I'm working with this guy
Wow.
every
That's
day.
crazy.
But those kind of things is like, you realize you're like, we're peers. Like I'm here for a reason, they're here for a reason.
Yeah.
And good sport for sure. The feature I did after that was called Dead Media, like I mentioned before, which was a lot of work, still very fun, but a lot of work, like more work than I've ever done on a
Mm.
film. And I wasn't even like, I was kind of the tertiary actor in that, wasn't the main actor, but we did
Mhm.
so many takes and I love the director, but as long as he got what he wanted, that was what was important, but that was a lot of work
Mhm.
and I still really enjoyed it. Um, and I did this, I'll just mention one more. I did this was going to be a series. This is in the aughts when I first got here to
Mhm.
Minnesota. I did a series called The Midnight
Go,
Chronicles,
go, go, go,
which
go,
is
go,
like a
go.
Lord of the Rings ripoff
Mm.
done by a
Oh, cool.
local gaming company called Fantasy Flight Games. And they got some money from their investors and wanted to do a series. And eventually they almost went with Sci-Fi Network and never really panned out, so they just made a movie of it. And I feel like mine was the only fun role in the whole because he was sort of the comic relief. Everything was so deadly serious
Mhm.
that it was just like it didn't. It's on YouTube. You can watch the Midnight Chronicles on YouTube for free, but I don't
Midnight
recommend it.
Chronicles.
Nothing
Oh no.
nothing happens. Nothing, literally, it's the most beautifully shot, beautiful art direction, all this stuff,
Uh-huh.
props, makeup, all this.
Mhm.
It's gorgeous, but like nothing happens.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, outside of that, like I did a proof of concept called Reuben the Roller Roo, which was really great too, where I had like a 3-page monologue and I felt
Yep.
really prepared. It was great. But
We had the director on, so
oh,
Mhm.
you had
uh
Will.
Will, yeah. Will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's great. He works at Best Buy.
Yeah.
I love that. I was like, they were talking about, oh, we're gonna do our next feature. I'm like, is it Ruben? He's like, no, we're doing this other thing. I'm like, why aren't you doing Ruben? That's a fun, fun,
I
fun.
can just sit there and eat a sandwich, and
That's
tell a
right.
guy how it is,
Just
like
talk. Yeah.
that
But those are
I
kind of
love
Love
the
that
that.
sandwich thing. I don't know why. It's just like, oh, yeah. Here's a
okay.
guy
Here's
I can relate to just eating a sandwich.
and he really wanted that to be because there's a line about him eating a hoagie or whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And here nobody cares. But behind the scenes, I had 3 teeth removed 2 days before.
No.
And so I was eating the sandwich and I was sort of eating it a little bit because they were long takes, but I'm like, it was just it was awful. I don't want to describe
Yeah.
what was down there. It was just
You got to be careful nothing gets in the like pockets.
right. And we had a thing where
Ah.
you keep the thing like you keep putting stuff on it, but if you look, I don't know, you can probably see it, but in a couple of scenes where I go outside and confront somebody, you can see this little brown, black and blue scar,
Mhm.
and
Oh yeah.
you can see it in some shots and it's not in others because it's really dimly lit. But I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's where I went under. They I had to go under. It was a full like, ugh, it's gross.
Oh
But that whole
wow.
time, like, this is the worst sandwich I've ever had in my life because it's like, ugh, so gross.
Damn.
Um.
Well, you did
Yeah.
great because I did not notice that,
Okay,
and
good.
I did notice the sandwich. So
That's a lot of sandwich,
you
man.
you 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 played to the sandwich very
Thank you. That's what I was hoping for.
yeah. I just know those type of people too that just like are eating and they're doing work, they're talking to while they're eating too. It's just kind of like those those characters are something. I mean, it's just
I don't know if
you
I
know those types,
Yeah, and I don't
you've
know
met them.
if that hadn't been in the script, I wouldn't be like Brad Pitt in every scene he does in like Ocean's
Right.
11 or whatever. He's just always eating something.
Yep.
I,
Yeah.
there's something great about having an active something that has nothing to do with the scene, which is really
Right.
intriguing, and yet it's too much to keep track of. Like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
continuity and crap to think about. Like
Yeah,
just do
that's
the
the other
scene,
thing.
Oh yeah.
you know.
Oh, the
That's
sandwich
a good
is
point.
a full sandwich again. Oh no, he ate it again. No,
Oh,
it's
he
back.
ate what?
How many sandwiches were there? I'm just curious.
No, there's only two. I think we did that
Okay.
monologue maybe 5 times.
Ooh,
And
okay.
just for coverage, I guess, because it was literally just the reverse.
Okay.
It was too
Mhm.
small of a office at Skateland where
Mm,
you couldn't get any kind of like coverage of the two. It was just
got it.
him or me. And I think maybe 5 times. And it was kind of the same sandwich. It wasn't like we had to do anything to be like, oh, you see the sandwich before it's
Yeah,
eaten or
yeah.
see it. It was very much
Yeah.
like he comes in, complains, and I settle his hash and keep eating.
What was Derek like on set? Because he hosted the Z Fest Awards night, so we saw him recently, but tell us,
Oh, Derek
what
was
was that
great.
like?
I think he and his family had just moved back from LA because
Okay.
Mhm.
he's from here originally, but he had been in LA for 10, 15 years.
Okay.
And they had just moved back. And I knew people who knew him from, way back in the day, like
Mhm.
90s and, commercial work and whatever.
Oh,
But
okay.
he was super, like he was really great. As soon as I was on set with him, I was like, this is great. Like he's just very like, especially when you're not just doing a scene for an eye line, you're actually doing it with somebody, you're actually doing a scene, and
Right.
this is yours, and then they're doing his. Like you want to give that person, and he always gave me like these reactions, like exactly what you see with his reverses. It's just him like
Oh, good.
downtrodden and
Good.
trying to kind of connect with me and convince me of something, and I don't take any of it. But being able to play against him was really great. Like you couldn't ask for a better scene partner
Mhm.
he's
Mhm.
we're barely in a scene together, but
Right.
it was really great. He's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. I'm very curious about this. This is going to be similar to the my question for you about your favorite place.
Yeah.
But I would like to know who your favorite actors are.
Hmm.
Um, and then similarly, films, like something that you either just this is my favorite thing to watch, or this is just the most influential, like inspiring thing for me to watch as an actor.
Sure. I mean, favorite actors are probably the same ones, especially somebody who looks like me, who's sort of character actor or whatever. It's going to be people like Paul Giamatti, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Uh, Before that, Richard Dreyfuss was always my go-to guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Also, from a comedic standpoint, like Albert Brooks. Um,
mhm,
Great director, but also like, when you watch him and stuff like Taxi Driver, you're like, oh, he's adding something to
mhm,
this scene that clearly wasn't supposed to be there. Um, but those sort of character actors, I mean, I don't, there are a lot of great actors who aren't character actors that I still
mhm,
are love, like Ryan Gosling, I think can pretty much do
mhm.
anything, and I normally don't like beautiful people. Um, that's not my thing. Uh, I don't like the beautiful people. If you're beautiful,
But
I
he's
have no
funny
use for you.
enough to like offset it.
And yeah, he has a lot of depth. I mean, when you see him in freaking Barbie,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
or you see
Mm-hmm.
him on SNL,
Oh
and
yeah.
I guess Adam Driver is kind of the same way. They have this sort of
Mhm,
ability to find those sides of themselves that people aren't expecting. And I think people don't
mhm,
expect people like I think audiences don't expect Gosling to be um that funny. And I think he's
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
great in the dramatic roles too,
Yeah.
from way back. But yeah, those are my kind of go-tos. It would almost always be the character actors, the ones who
Oh,
um
Paul Giamatti is a great example. I
I
mean,
oh
love Paul Giamatti. Oh my gosh.
have you
yeah.
seen the latest season of Black Mirror or with him
Oh
in
no, I
his
haven't.
episode? Okay,
Not
you got to
recently,
watch
no.
that one.
Okay.
It's called Eulogy. It's really good.
Hmm.
And then like he did like Fred Claus? He did
Oh, he was in
Holdovers,
freaking
of course.
he was in like,
Uh,
yeah, the Howard Stern movie, Private Parts. I mean,
really? Oh,
when he was
okay.
still like
He's in everything.
he's in everything. And then like,
Like Paycheck, I remember he had this one little thing. He's like very bad, like very introverted type of character, and he's like trying to ask for an hors d'oeuvre or a drink or something. He's like, no. It's like just a little shot of him just trying to ask for a drink and he can't get a drink or
yeah,
whatever. So,
he's tremendous. I just think
Mhm,
everything he does, no matter whether it's
or
small parts.
Billions. Did you see
Billions.
Billions?
mhm,
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Yes.
the
But he's
first episode of that season.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's also the kind of like actor who's so good but so funny that he can even make really boring commercials from really boring like companies really funny. Like he did some
Hmm.
commercial with was it
Oh yeah.
Kieran Culkin where he was like his financial advisor or something like that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Kieran's like going to Vegas and doing this stuff and he's like, could you just and it's just Paul Giamatti just being like,
How much
please.
is
And
this going to cost?
like,
Or what is
Right.
this? Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, this would be so dumb if these two weren't so good at exactly the thing that they are like giving you in this 15 seconds. And it's just, yeah, like he's
Yeah.
that good.
He is that
Right.
Yeah.
good. He can,
Mm,
he can do pretty much anything. I think they've given him an opportunity to do a lot of different things
yeah.
considering uh his type. And yet, he can play against type too.
Yeah.
People think, oh, character actor. No, in Sideways, you kind of root for
Hmm.
him and you kind of hate him and you
Yeah.
kind of are like,
Yeah.
when you put him against, the other dude, you're like, the other dude's amazing too, but you're like, no, he's the most sensible one, and yet he's insane.
Yeah.
So those right roles come along, and I
Yeah.
think that when you see them in the right roles, you just go, this guy can do anything,
Yeah.
Hmm.
literally anything.
Absolutely.
Like shoot him up, he's the villain, and
Yeah,
it's just like
Yeah.
yeah, all these scenes that he does that are all
Yeah.
different, big range, and a lot of
yeah,
it has to do with
Huge.
his voice, the way uses his voice, and
Hmm.
obviously
Little
his expressions,
subtlety.
everything. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
yeah. I mean, he can be big. He can be really
Hmm.
big when it
Hmm.
needs to be big, and be really
Yeah.
small. And I think there are things. There's a old actor, expression you hear when you start taking acting in college or whatever. It's like, if you're gonna steal, steal from the best.
Hmm.
And when you steal something, you're probably not doing an impression. But I did stuff in Good Sport where I was like, that's a Richard Dreyfuss, that's a Paul Giamatti. Not
Yeah,
a
Yes.
face a facial tick or a way I say something, but it's just it's a vibe more
a
than it's an
Hmm.
presence.
impression. It's a presence
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure. But steal from the best. Don't steal from like the dumbest comedy ever. Steal from an actor that
Yeah.
you're like, I see something in myself in that person, and every time I do this scene, I'm thinking about that because it's not coming through
Yeah.
as an expression or an impression. It's your version of that guy or that woman or that
Hmm.
person's performance that nobody's gonna go, Paul Giamatti. Nobody's gonna do
Yeah.
that.
No.
right.
Yeah.
Although I
And if
think that,
anything, they might be like, "Oh my God, that kind of like all of a sudden this guy reminds me of Paul Giamatti," and they're not going to know
yeah,
why. And
right.
that's the compliment of a lifetime is when somebody's like, "You totally remind me of this person after watching your performance." You're like, "Yes, I do.
Yes, I
Yes."
do. That's right.
So
You
so
got it.
exciting.
I mean, I got that. We took Good Sport to Cinequest. That's where we premiered it in San Jose, and I think the description says something like Sam Landman plays a Paul Giamatti-esque blah 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 blah. Like, thank you, thank you. That is not an insult. That is
Yeah.
exactly sort of the schlumpy loser guy who doesn't stand up straight, a little bit of a paunch, has this sarcastic edge to him, but can never really win. I mean, that's a lot of Paul Giamatti's characters anyway. So I feel like they totally got it, and I love that. Certain people see it, and certain people don't, and that's okay.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But steal from
I
the
love
best.
it.
That's like the best thing you could ever do as an actor.
right.
Yes.
Well,
Okay. And then
yeah.
film. Favorite film.
Okay.
Jesus.
Sorry. I'm just so curious. Or maybe a
Well,
film that has influenced you the most as an actor.
uh,
Whichever is the easiest to answer.
you know, uh, Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out the same year as Star Wars.
Yep.
Star Wars had obliterated the box office. There was no beating it.
Yeah.
But Spielberg was like, I'm not making a Jaws 2, even though they were
Hmm.
about to make a Jaws 2 without him. And Close Encounters, I have a bigger memory of seeing Close Encounters in the movie theater than I did Star Wars because I'm that old.
Mm.
But
Oh.
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
something
Nice.
about Close Encounters and something about, Spielberg doing the Spielberg, I'm not going to show you anything until later.
Right.
Hmm.
That really hooked me as a kid, and it still hooks me to this day. There are scenes in that movie I'm like, oh God, this
Yeah,
it's just
I agree.
Hmm.
unbelievable. I mean, but so many films are influential to me.
Yeah.
Uh, they inspire me. Like Paul
Mhm.
Giamatti, American Splendor,
Yeah.
about a comic book writer in a shitty part of Ohio. But there's stuff like Blues Brothers and High
Mhm.
Fidelity and Titty Cut Follies and uh, the Trash Humpers. There are so many great,
Haven't heard of it.
beautifully horrible, but also beautifully
Yeah.
beautiful films that just inspire me to just steal things from, but
Yeah.
specifically go, Close Encounters is the one that really just it hit me in the face. And I was just like, oh, there are
Mhm.
things they're capturing in this camera.
Yeah,
Even as a kid, not knowing how films were being made, I was like,
Yeah.
I still look at certain scenes that
yeah,
are practical effects, and I go,
exactly.
Mhm.
he opens the door, the trees are blowing, the
Yeah,
scene from behind him, and these three giant circles are just going past. How the hell? Um,
yes.
and as a kid, there was
Yeah.
this guy is saying, talking to Bob Balaban at the very beginning, and he looks up and it's this dust storm, and as he's looking up, just more dust is flying, and he just vanishes, and it's because so much dust is flying, and then it wipes to another scene, another part of it. I mean, there are parts of that movie of Close Encounters that I'm just like,
It's like, how
know
did
how
they
he
do
got it.
that today?
Yep.
Like,
Mhm.
even like, yeah.
No effects. No, no. It was just optical
Yeah.
effects. It was just in
Hmm.
camera. And occasionally it was like, well, we hope this works. We got a bunch of lights that are pointing
Yeah.
down out of, I guess it's gonna, we tested it. We shot some black ink into the fish tank and we'll see if we can shoot it and it looks like clouds, but we don't
Yeah.
actually
Right.
know if it's gonna match the mat that we painted. Stuff where you're like, God, I love practical effects that are not hinged on
And
digital
when,
technology that
what
just,
was it like? All
Yeah.
the dirt in the house too is just like,
yeah.
how'd they get all that in there? I'm like, is this a set? Is this in the
Mhm.
house? Is
Right,
this,
he's building, they clearly had to build that little mountain, the little
yeah.
Devil's Tower,
Mhm.
but there's a scene, a beautiful scene. Oh God, just shut me up, will you? There's a scene where he's just built it. He hates his life. His wife, Terry Garr, is taking the kids, and there's a TV here in the foreground, and he's in the background on a phone. He's trying to beg her to come back. And what are you doing? You're not paying attention to him. You're paying attention to what's on the television. And then you see Devil's Tower on the TV, and Devil's Tower is right there where he built it, and you're like, oh my God. And finally he hangs up, and at the right time, the perfect timing, he just kind of sits and looks at the TV. It's just this beautiful moment where it's like, no, man, it was one take. I don't know how many times they did it, but they synced up, the footage they had on TV and his performance.
Wow.
You can't
Yeah.
even, you could have easily just
Yeah.
been like, no, we'll just, in post, we'll just throw it on the television. You can totally tell
Yeah.
it's a tube TV. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
why I love Close Encounters. It
It
just
is
still to this
so
day
good.
is
It is.
inspiring.
I
It's
love that.
just I saw that in my more recent adulthood where it was just like I'm watching like how did this not get more attention? It's like, oh, it was
Mhm.
Star Wars, that's what killed
Star
it. It's
Wars.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, I understand. But
Yeah.
like and we didn't have streaming or anything or,
Yeah.
even
Nope.
blockbusters really were kind of about to come about, but
Yeah.
anyways, let's move on. I just wanted to find out, is there something you want to really do more now than ever at this point? Like what would that thing be that you would like to do as an actor or anything within film or theater even?
Well, I would love to do more film in
Mhm.
town. It's not easy because there's always Z Fest and 48 and those
Yeah.
types of things, which I think I sort of, for me, kind of ran into the ground, did a number of years, and I just kind of got tired of doing that. But I love doing those, except that those are also pace cars for other films that are happening,
Mhm.
films with budgets and stuff. And I feel like those are cool, and yet I feel like a lot of attention is put on those, and I just want to do more film that's not necessarily Z Fest or 48, and
Hmm.
Mhm.
not to shit on those things, obviously, but
Right.
I feel like this is just my own soapbox, and it has been for a while. A lot of the same actors get cast in film. That happens in the theater community too, but there are different
Mhm.
levels, many, many levels of theater here where it's like you're doing community or small theater
Yeah.
or middle-sized theater or the Guthrie. There's
Hmm.
so many different levels. even in between those. And I think for film, it's kind of siloed. I feel like a lot of people use the same folks, and I think that's great. And yet, there are some times where I kind of feel like it's not, I can even ask some actors who are getting a lot of work, how do you get all this work?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
they're probably not going to tell me. I mean, to the credit, and I totally understand that because that means
Yeah.
one more shark in the tank. But
Mm.
um,
Mhm.
I also feel like I don't know. I've gone on auditions and tried to hit certain things, but everybody's making films, you know. So
They are? No, I'm just
that
kidding.
notice, it's kind of hard to be like, well, what horse am I picking for this race?
Right.
And a
Yeah.
lot of it comes down to like, it's a lot of people saying I want to keep casting the same people because they're reliable and I like them and I
Yeah.
write roles for them.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, it's just siloed enough to where it's really hard to find
Yeah.
film and get people to notice you actually and cast you has been
Yeah.
like an exercise of
Yeah.
futility in this town because they're either going with who they normally have, or I'm also in an
Right.
older demographic, also a character actor who's not going to always get the lead. I'm not asking for that, but I really want to do more film. That's the short answer,
Yeah.
and I don't feel like there's um, the
Mm.
easiest avenue to that of
Right.
Yeah.
getting noticed as well. I mean, I'm represented by agents, but mostly it's just like I don't know. I just want to do more film, the more I can.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm really cheap. So I'm not expensive.
You
Just
saw me eat a
not.
sandwich without teeth, so
Yeah, come
no.
on. I had three teeth
I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
missing. Eating a sandwich.
Come
That was my
on.
pay that day.
Yeah.
Was the sandwich,
That's
and I
just kidding.
couldn't even
The
enjoy
two
it.
sandwiches.
Two
Two
Oh,
sandwiches.
sandwiches.
two.
I couldn't eat the
Yeah.
second one because of my stupid missing teeth.
Right.
I
But
ground it
yeah,
up for you.
yeah, just chop it up a little more. Make a shake out of it. No, but
Oh,
I'm relatively inexpensive. I mean, if
yeah.
not just incredibly free. So that's what
Yep.
I'm urging people to do. If you see somebody, I think
I
one time somebody didn't cast me because they're like, "Oh, you don't have a beard anymore." I'm like, "I had a beard for like 6 months. You didn't call me the entire time."
Right.
Don't use that as an excuse. Don't use an excuse like, "Oh, I thought
you
you'd
can
just be
always
busy."
put a fake beard on. I mean, it's
And we
you know.
did.
Like I
We
could
did
also
for a
just grow a new beard.
right, but they got me a fake beard. I'm like, dude, I had a beard the whole time, but now you got a fake beard. So, but I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess the takeaway from that is like, don't think that I'm too busy.
Mhm.
Don't think that I'm too expensive, too busy, or too
Mhm.
tired to do film work.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are really hungry and would love to do more, and we're
Yeah.
Yeah.
just not invited to the table.
Yeah.
We've learned that we did Film Score Fest as a team recently, and there was like a lot of hungry composers out there, and it's
Oh
like people
yeah,
don't know
Hmm.
composers, and it's like go talk to these people. They
Yeah.
want to do the thing that you want
yeah.
help with. So
They're starving, man.
yeah, and
Hmm.
then same with actors, of course, like you mentioned. I as a filmmaker, I don't see other people doing other films because I'm mainly just working on my own,
Yeah,
other than when I get to see them at like a festival or some
right.
sort
Hmm.
of screening, something,
Yeah,
And I think,
it's yeah.
yeah, just being able to see like Reuben or something else come out like Good Sport, and then um, I wish there was more opportunities than just the festivals and just the competitions to show things too. So,
I
Hmm.
agree, and I think again, this is no shade on Z-Fest or 48, but there's a lot of emphasis put on those
right.
because there are so many little awards that go out to Best Kiss or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
and I love that. I mean, I love the fact that that's happening. I think a lot of folks just do those, and for a long
Hmm.
time, that's all I ever did,
Right.
and I
Hmm.
realized I either got to do my own thing or I got to put myself out there a little bit more than just like, oh, let's pay a fee, make it within this time period, and then
Yeah.
maybe get an award. Because I don't think I've done Z-Fest since 2020, and
Hmm.
we really committed to that. I felt really good about it, but it also kind of felt like it was sort of a lot of the same people hugging each other, liking each other, and blah. And I felt like we were the odd man
Yeah.
out, you know.
Gotcha.
But every once in a
Yeah.
while, yeah, you know a lot of these people. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
working with them. You just want to work with
Right.
people, you
hmm
know.
Yep. All right, Sam, can you tell us what's next for you? What's on the docket?
I know
What is
one thing. I mean,
no, I'll
Oh,
because
stop.
I was
I'll stop at one thing, I promise. That'll
no,
be
no,
it.
no. I was gonna say the one thing because we're connected in that sense. I was in Frogman 1 with
Yes.
director Anthony Cousins. So
I was
Shout out.
yes, I just wrapped my day player role in Frogman Returns.
Oh, it's returns. It's not
Yes.
two.
It might be two.
Is it two? Is okay, whatever.
That I don't know.
Who knows?
I
Either
thought
way,
I
it's a second one.
it's a sequel. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in that and I can't say much about it as you know.
Only that he
But
Right.
returns.
that he returns. That's all we
He
can say.
returns.
So that's
Or
the
at
only
least that's what they
spoiler.
want you to
Was
think.
he ever
Right.
gone to begin with? I mean,
I mean,
I tell you, I've
we're gonna
seen
find out.
photos of the Frogman, and it's really impressive.
yeah.
For especially for a sort of found footage type of
Yeah.
thing. What a fun, weird way to work. It's so weird. It was so, and Anthony's great, but it was like, man, how are you getting any of the coverage that you want? And it's like
I thought
they
the
were
same thing, but
absolutely
I was like there for my extra role, and then it was just like, oh, you're in the. Someone else told me they had seen them film. It's like, oh, you're in the movie, and it's like, what?
Are you
I
sure?
just said something that I heard other people say whenever I left to LA. It was like the
Right.
whole, it's like, don't forget us little people or something.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like I'm just moving to LA like everyone else. Yeah, anyways, it's not going to be a big deal, but whatever,
Yeah.
you know.
It was, I mean, it was a good time too. We shot and they had a very small time frame to shoot everything, but
Yeah.
I did it
Mhm.
overnight and it was really fun. And Anthony's really cool. Chelsea Grant got me involved in that. She was
Oh, fun.
just a
Oh,
sweetheart. So she was just like,
yeah.
yeah, bring Sam on, give him a role. And I had this really nice little meaty role, but yeah, I was also told, hey, just don't talk too much because there's some
Mhm.
horror people who love this movie and we don't want any spoilers. So I'm like,
It's wild, man. I could not, yeah. If you look at like some of the reviews on the first one, it's just like there's a lot out there already for that.
yeah.
I was like, huh? It's like,
But you gotta talk to the right people because like you could talk to a certain person who's just gaga over this series, right?
mhm.
I told coworkers, yeah, I'm in this film called Taking a Day Off for Frogman Returns. It's like I don't give a fuck. They don't
What?
care. Okay,
No, no,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
If they're
Don't
not
care.
horror buffs or whatever, they do not care. No.
Or they laugh, and I'm like,
Oh,
yeah, it's not really fun comedy, but whatever, it's fine.
right.
You're not the
Frogman. That's
audience.
funny. Yeah.
Frogman, eh? Okay,
I'm
sure.
going to the cabin. It's like,
Yeah, take your day off, whatever. You earned your PTO.
yeah, right. Okay,
Um,
so yeah, what else you got coming up?
yeah, so I'm continuing the festival circuit with Good Sport. We're going to Dances with Films in LA
Nice,
on
nice.
the 25th, couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe a showing of Good Sport in my hometown of Birmingham. We're still waiting on that.
Oh, very
Uh,
Ooh,
cool.
that'd be a big, nice return, huh?
yeah, and it turns out the person who plays my ex-wife, Virginia, she lives in Atlanta. She does a lot of film work there, but she's she grew up 20 minutes from where I grew up. Like, and I'm like, what? Huh? We were on a Zoom
That's
call
Wow.
before we
crazy.
started in pre-production, and she was like, oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
from blah. I'm like, what? Are you serious? You grew up there? I'm like, yeah, I grew up in Birmingham. So we're on set just kind of shooting the shit about like, oh, so did you ever
Yeah.
go to blah?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
small world. Anyway, yeah. So maybe there's a film festival in my hometown that's been going for a long time. Might hit that. And
Mhm.
also, we'll be doing a local screening of a film I talked about earlier called Dead Media,
Mhm.
in October. I'm not sure exactly where that might be. It might be at Trilon, but I'm
Ooh,
not sure
okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Outside of that, I'm writing a Minnesota Fringe show,
Very
and
cool.
we start rehearsals and we just finished casting.
Now.
We start rehearsals in July,
Okay.
Mhm.
and then that opens in July 31st and through August 11th. And I'm also writing a Twin Cities Horror Festival show about a demented
Ooh,
Christian TV show called Gospel Gus. So if
interesting.
anybody wants to see live horror on stage, there are literally 13 1 hour horror shows, all different, that happen in October, in the span of I think, yeah, 13 days. They each get
Oh,
5 performances. So if you want to see some creepy,
scary.
nasty, bloody live horror, 1 hour each at the Crane Theater in Northeast Minneapolis.
Hmm.
That's happening in October, so I'll
I
have
like
a.
the Crane Theater. That's a nice one.
I do too. It's really great. We shot
Yeah.
a lot of Dead Media there too.
Oh, okay, cool.
So yeah.
Rahana is probably out
Oh
for
really?
I
horror.
I'm a scaredy cat. I can't do
That's
horror.
fair. Totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It limits. Although if something sounds good, I will read the whole plot. Like I'll read the whole synopsis. I want all the details. I'll read it and I'll be like, man, that does sound like a really good movie. That sounds great. But there's just no way I can watch it because I'm like a 4-year-old. I will have nightmares for the rest of my life.
Just bring a blanket and, or a pillow or whatever.
Yeah, but the sounds, it's just a whole, but that's
Well,
okay.
and
If
yeah,
I can read the plot, I'm in.
and it's not. Yeah, I think they have. If you go to TwinCitiesHorror.org, I think it is. They
Hmm.
have all the shows that are going to be featured, and
Yep.
some of them are really intriguing, and some
Mhm.
truthfully aren't as terrifying in person as you think. But some, there's no. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
guarantee. It could be
Right.
that show where you're like, nope, out of here, nope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I totally understand. Totally understand.
Yeah.
Well, cool. It sounds like we
Um,
got stuff coming up for summer and fall for you, so that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Gonna
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah, a little bit.
And where
All
can
right.
people find your work, follow
Mhm.
you, support you?
Truthfully, I'm an old guy, so I don't do the TikToks or the whatevers. I'm Facebook, Instagram. For a while, I did a little comedy thing called Plaza Del Mall, but we didn't crank out anything. We did like 2 sketches. They're not worth looking up. But yeah, I mean, I'm just on Facebook and Instagram. Nothing
Yeah, about your
super fun this
Linktree,
time.
it said something about comedy stand up there, Monday night comedy. Did you do stand up or something?
I did for a while.
Oh,
Very
Monday night com
cool.
One Monday night comedy show is been
yeah.
going on for years and years and years, and
Uh-huh.
I had friends who started that little open mic type of thing, and you'd get like 5 or 10 minutes, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I did a lot of stand up for a while, and then realized, God, there are people who are so much better than me, and people who want to put more time and effort into it than I do.
That's
Right.
the thing. Yeah.
And you go to open mics and you'd feel okay about it, and then you'd have the person like leaving right after their set,
Hmm.
and they're going to do like 2 other open mics.
Yeah.
They're honing everything there. Like that is a very specific skill that I think I have until I see somebody do it, and I realize
Yeah.
they have more drive than me, which is also an
Yes.
actor thing, and actors are also
Yeah.
like that. Like you
Mm.
just got to push yourself, but
Mm.
that is a specific thing. Like
Yeah.
I got a good like I'm doing something coming up at Mary Jo Peel's garage for performing arts. Mary Jo Peel used to be, I don't know if you know MST3K.
Yep.
She used to be Dr. Clayton Forrester's mom on
Oh,
the later episodes.
okay.
Pearl Forrester.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
she's
Pearl,
local.
yeah.
Yeah, and she was a writer on it and everything. But she's come back recently and over the past few years, and she does something. So I'm doing some performing a little 10-minute thing for it's not stand up. It's more
Hmm.
performance art for something called that she calls her garage for performing arts, where she just has her garage, has some seating, and people just
That's
perform
cool.
things. So Bill Corbett,
That's really cool.
Bill Corbett, who's
Yeah. Was he
Tom
Servo? Tom
Tom
Servo,
Servo,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
He's going to be performing something, and
Oh,
we just have these little 10-minute slots, and so that's kind of the next thing I'm doing, which is next
Hmm.
Sunday. But I don't even know if she's letting that many people into her garage.
right,
Yeah.
right.
It's a limited
Sounds like an
seating thing.
intimate viewing, yeah.
It very much is. So I'm performing something that's very close to my heart. That's
That's cool.
sort of comedy, but also really stupid. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. I
Yeah,
love
I love
that.
I
that.
love
And I
stupidity.
That's
do love the
so cool.
MST3K from that saga, that chapter of like being on sci-fi and everything. And
Oh, it's so great.
those were so good. I like Mike
Yeah.
Nelson a lot too. So,
I did too. I for a while I dropped off because I love Joel so much.
right.
But Mike, as the head writer, I mean, his stuff, and
Yeah.
I just love how much shit they would give him for like
Yes.
Packers jokes because he was from
Yep.
Wisconsin. I
Yep.
just love that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I just there's a huge love for it uh, that just cannot stop and never will. But Mary
Mm.
Jo's a really
Yeah.
good friend of mine. She's such a good person, and every once in a while she's like, "Hey, can you do my garage for performing arts?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" it's going to be fun. So we'll see.
I love it.
Nice.
Awesome. All right, Sam, this is our final question, but
Okay.
it's the big one really. What do you want people to remember most about you?
You know, I want people to go, man, he's really funny, but he's also deadly serious. And yet he's really good at both of them. God damn it, I wish I'd cast him. That's what I want people to remember me
I
by.
like that.
I want people to go, man, he had these, because I think comedians are, as we know, some of the best dramatic
Yes.
Yeah.
actors.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can't do that in reverse.
Yep.
Sometimes you can, but that's what I want people to remember me by is that you know, yeah, he's funny, but he's also, he can do some serious stuff too, if he really needs to.
Yeah, like Bill Hader from Barry or something like that.
Oh God, you look at that. I mean, and the obvious example is Adam Sandler.
Mhm.
Like when you
Yeah.
look at the stuff that he's not producing, and when you look at Punch Drunk Love or any of these other
Yes.
movies, you're
Uncut
like
Gems.
Uncut Gems.
Yes.
You're
Whoa.
just like, wow, he has that in him, and
Hmm.
but he's doing the other stuff to pay the bills because that makes
Yeah.
Right.
tons of money.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of people who are before the many times. Well, hell, before when Keaton got cast as Batman, people were like, "Oh no,
Yeah.
you can't do Beetlejuice in a bat." Well, I get look
Well,
who was correct. Like they were right.
yeah. Hmm.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of that. I feel like there's still this stigma about like funny people. It's like, eh,
Mm.
Yeah.
oh, you were too XYZ. It's like, yeah, well, we have range. That's
Yeah.
why we're called actors. We have
Yeah.
more of a range than you probably think. So that's
And
what
like
I'd want
human
people.
beings aren't one dimensional. So whoever you're
Oh,
playing, even if they're not like a comedian, they still probably have a sense of humor.
and
So,
or a very
you
dark
know,
side. Like most comedians are very
yeah.
dark, and you
Yes.
can tap into
Yeah.
Right.
that if you give them the right role or say,
Exactly.
this is kind of the direction we want. And
Yep.
I think that's true for anybody. Give them a shot. Like take them out of their
Yeah.
comfort zone. Actors love being pulled out of their own because we have to deal
Oh
with our
yeah.
own types all the time. It's like, what's my
Right.
Yeah.
type and what do people cast me as? But please cast against type.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so
Like give me
vital.
an opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, just give me a shot. Like throw me the sides and let me read for it. If it doesn't work,
Yeah.
I totally get it, but give that person a
You
shot who you
never
don't
know.
expect to be the
Hmm.
the lead in the film, but yet they
Yeah.
are here they are.
Mhm.
Yeah. Amazing. Well,
Yeah,
Sam, thank you so much for
thank
joining
you.
us and
Yeah.
chatting with
Thank
us.
you.
This was awesome.
Of course.
Um,
Thanks for
and
having
to
me.
all of our listeners and viewers, this has been Film and Beyond. Well done.